Yeah, well, even in a period of 10 years, you can imagine like materials change, technology, design changes. Did Charlie stick around and teach you any of that stuff? I mean,
So with the purchase of the company, I got, I think it was 5 days of training, which...
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archery Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have, only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays. Yeah. I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator.
And we're back.
Ew.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 263.
I should have refilled on water before we started. I'm ahead to grab me some bottles here before we get going here too long. But
well, do your part while I'm getting you water.
Thank you guys for being here. Whether you're listening on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, those are the three main platforms that we drop this episode on. Every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time is when we do that. If you give us a like, a follow, or a subscribe on any one of those platforms, they should notify you as to when they drop. You can use our promo code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partner websites for discounts on all of the gear that we use, and from those guys, and they certainly appreciate us sending them some business, so we appreciate you guys doing that. If you've written us on Instagram DM or the website, we have likely seen that, and we're working diligently to get back through that.
We're getting there.
Appreciate all you guys reaching out, and also for buying merch on the website. You guys have, we feel super just blessed to see all of that. That's fun. Nick's working on a wedding ring there too, so that helps with that. And other than that,
here we go. August 7th is the day. Yes.
Whoa, Nelly.
Don't be brimming.
Whoa.
You're brimming. You know that it can't take two full ones. It's a rookie move.
It can, definitely. I had a little bit left over.
August 7th, and man, it seems like we're just steamrolling towards the season at this point.
It's good vibes today, isn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, it was.
We're just getting started here.
Well, we got a lot going on. We're leaving tomorrow to head up to your farm for the
roadshow.
Whitetail
Roadshow.
Yeah, so that'll be a big event on
That's all
Saturday.
these phone calls I'm making, coordinating burgers for all you guys.
yeah, got to feed them.
We got to feed everybody. Feed the army.
Don't want anybody hangry up there. So that'll be a big time for tomorrow night, but Saturday all day and night. So we're stoked about that. But yeah, it just seems like the season is just, there was a period of time there where it was like, boy, it was just dragging. But really, I think when we took the Western trip, probably, it was like, man, we just felt like from that point forward, it's like, it's right there. It's like at the tip of the tongue.
Not for me, man. It's been a good summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been kind of just powering right through. There's been enough like catastrophes to keep me fully preoccupied and focused on.
Yeah, just distracted from the not hunting standpoint.
Yeah, well, but also an equal amount of progress and goals accomplished. So it's we've just been busy and we've made, we've done like as far as the food plots and just and the trips we've been able to take, and it's been a good year.
Yeah. So just grinding. And I know when we were in Utah, we were talking about it, like some of those OTC Utah elk hunts start a week from today, the 14th of August.
Well, our guest is going to be hunting this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Hell, correct me, but I want to say Nevada.
Wow.
Yeah, Muleys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, it's here.
Yeah,
it's
we're in a
hunt companion.
Yeah.
Not for us, but for some.
For the Western guys.
For some, yeah.
So we've got South Cox on today is our guest, and we've been talking about this one for
a couple of years now.
Yeah. for sure. I think probably in our muley phases, we came across South stuff.
That's
as
definitely when it happened. Yep.
Yeah, and just the, instant magnet to some of that high country stuff. And so yeah, we've been just discussing like, hey, this would be a great one to have on, especially as we're leading up to the Western seasons, because a lot of us East Coast guys are just drolling at it at this point.
Definitely, the timing is right on. We caught him right before this hunt, and South is one of those guys. I don't know him. This is going to be our chance to get to know him here a little bit. But like there's some people. Ty Easley was another one we did here recently. Donnie Vincent is another one that we'll do again in the future. Like people just that have really attractive to me, anyways, personalities. It's like you just tell their attitude, like their heart's in the right place. They really love it what they're doing. That's what makes the content they produce, I think, so attractive and fun to watch, and that's what prompted me to reach out to South originally. So yeah, I think we've been playing a little bit of phone. Instagram tag for a couple of years, and he's got a business to run. He's making bows every day, and so he's a busy guy too. So, but
yeah, stoked to hear about that side of it too,
for sure.
So, all right, well, let's bring him in. Well, South, we appreciate you coming on. I guess first things first, is your name actually South?
It is. Yep. I wouldn't do that to myself. It's been a lifetime of explanation. And I hated my name when I was a kid because it was, what is any kid going to do? Right. This is way back before anti-bullying campaigns. And so I got
good old days. That's what they call that.
Yeah. It's character building.
That's right.
That's what it was back then. So yeah, no, I had hippie parents. So lifetime curse from them. Thank you very much.
Wow. I can't say that I've met another South. I've definitely met or heard of some Norths. Those are out there.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny is that I've heard of 3 other Souths in 56 years. So
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Well, the old "A Boy Named Sue" song, right? Just to toughen you up. That was the mindset around it. You didn't have it that bad though.
No. I mean, I can't complain. I appreciate it now. My parents were actually going to name me either Charlie or South. And so, now that I'm older and I don't have to, turn my head when someone says Mike, I'm grateful to, if someone's shouting out directions, then
then that gets you.
Yeah, you're going to make a South. You're like, what?
Right. Although, I will say if they would have named me North, it probably would have been better just from like when things go south, right?
Yeah. They just have a picture of you in the dictionary when things go south.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Who knows, man? I may have been like a NASA engineer had they had named me North instead of South. Instead of like I would have been a marginally successful Bowyer. I could have been a space agent or something. Who knows?
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you coming on and spending some time with the hunt you've got coming up. But Jared and I kind of opened it up there. These kind of pods are really fun for us because it's just really a get to know you and have our listeners get to know you and some of the backstory. So, I guess I always kind of start off with, just a little history lesson, really. So I guess where did you grow up at, South?
Yeah, so I was born in Big Sur, Northern California, on the coast there. I was born in a 6-man army tent. So, dyed in the wool hippie roots.
Wow.
My mom was a vegetarian when I was growing up until I turned 16, before she finally came around and started eating meat. And my dad, total hippie from the late 60s. And I was born there in Northern California, grew up part of the time on a 1,200 acre sheep ranch commune, and that's where I got introduced into archery. I found a wood recurve under my neighbor's house and commandeered it and started shooting, stickbow back when I was about 5 years old. And then kind of, sporadically through the years up until I was, 8th grade, I talked my dad into letting me get a compound. I was actually fanatically fascinated with firearms and bought every hunting magazine on the newsstand. And I don't know what my parents thought of me. Like I said, they were hippies. There was nobody in my family that hunted or expressed an interest in hunting. But for some reason, it was just, real strong in my DNA there. And so when I was, 8th grade, I asked my dad if I could get a rifle, right? I wanted a Winchester XTR featherweight in 270, read all the Jack O'Connor sheep hunting stuff. And that's the rifle I wanted. And probably wisely, he said no.
Yeah.
And then my backup plan was a compound bow. So he said yes. And here's my level of ignorance then. Despite having read all these magazines, there just wasn't all that much information out about hunting and hunting with a bow. But even so, there was more than what I had going into it. So I thought that your compound bow, each, string was a different draw weight, the string and the 2 cables.
Yeah.
So by some miracle of luck, I ended up with a bow that fit me both in draw length, and also I was able to back the draw weight off enough that I was able to shoot it. And so I got my start with an old Bear compound bow, and then graduated up to a Bear Whitetail 2 when I was 16, killed my first deer the following year, and then just never looked back. I never, really, even when I became an adult and was able to, technically buy my own firearms, I was hooked on archery, just, hook, line, and sinker at that point, and never looked back.
So when you were growing up in that commune, I mean, obviously 1,200 acre ranch that kind of got you, I would say, more into like, the rural area, the wilderness area type of style. But were there other people in the commune that were like, that hunted? No one. It's just so like, what do you think drew you into that kind of stuff?
I don't know, man.
Was it like the forbidden thing? Like you're like, man, I should really.
No, I despite my shirt saying Renegade, the one I'm wearing, I'm really not that much like of a rebel personality. But for some reason, I mean, just it was in my DNA.
Yeah.
And despite all odds, I was insistent on it. And I got to hand it to my mom, her being a vegetarian. She had no qualms with my interest in hunting, and neither did my dad, despite the fact that they were both non-hunters. And, my dad had rabbit hunted a little bit when he was a kid. He grew up on the East Coast in New York State. And my uncle, his brother, was really into hunting. And
there you go.
I did go back one time and visit with him when I was in 6th grade, we went fishing, and I quizzed him all about rifles and all this back in that day. But this was, before I was hit my dad up to buy a centerfire rifle. So, I'm grateful. I'm sure had he have let me get a centerfire rifle, I'd be one heck of a rifle hunter right now. Who knows whether I would have ever made that jump into archery, let alone traditional archery, let alone building bows. But yeah, that's kind of how my story unfolded there in my youth.
Wow. Really cool, man. I mean, that's always fascinating. I mean, there's like, I would consider myself a very traditional trend of like, my grandfather hunted, my dad hunted, like I was born into the hunting family. Like you're kind of just in it. But when you kind of hear the non-standard way of finding themselves into something, especially as dedicated as you are now with that, it's just,
especially that early in life too. You hear about people like just later in life being like, oh, that's interesting, I'm aware of what it is and I want to get into that, and let me find somebody that can teach me. But at such a young age to have like almost no influence other than like you said, the magazines that you were finding and stuff, that is interesting. I don't know if there's anybody else that had that path into it.
Yeah, my mom, despite being a vegetarian, never dissuaded us from eating meat. It was just never available at our table. So I think, maybe I loved eating meat when the opportunity arose. So it might've been one of those things where that was like, if I'm going to get, my own meat, I'm going to have to provide it for myself. And that may have been, me looking to source my own sources of protein besides garbanzo beans or something.
Yeah, right on. So South, you were raised in that commune was in Northern California, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. And eventually, because you don't live there anymore, right? You're in
Colorado.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I lived in Northern California for, Well, up until 2016, we had bought a place out here in Colorado in 15 and started remodeling it. And then we got moved out here. Actually, I didn't make it out fully until 2017, but my wife and kids moved out in 16 while we were finishing the remodel. And I had, stuff to finish on the house in Cali to be able to put it on the market. But
Okay.
yeah, I lived there in Northern California, up in the Redwoods, way up towards the Oregon border, for the bulk of my life, until I was able to talk my wife into getting out here to Colorado and, live in the mountains out here.
Yeah. And was that mainly in pursuit of, I assume you'd been hunting in Colorado, obviously for years leading up to it. Was that what prompted the move?
Yeah. Yeah. I got to come out to Colorado 10 to 12 days a year. And it was one of those things where I absolutely love the mountains out here. And so I was hell bent on getting out here if I could talk her into it. And I end up telling her, hey, look, you can choose where in Colorado. I just want to get out there. I don't care where. And so we spent, a few years before we ended up buying a place here, and we ended up in Estes Park, up here in the mountains, which just a beautiful spot. But with the benefit of hindsight, it would have been smarter to have gone to Wyoming. The politics here in Colorado, are just miserable.
Yeah.
A little worse than California.
Getting pretty nasty. I was going to say on the California front, from a hunting side, is it fairly difficult for residents of California to do, substantial hunting, like from an opportunity side, or there's a lot of stuff just over the counter for residents to be able to do?
So from a bow hunting standpoint, you can get 2 archery only tags, and you have quite a few different units that you can hunt. And those are unlimited. So there's, 2 archery buck tags, you can get unlimited pig tags, and you can get a bear tag.
Okay.
So there's actually quite a bit of opportunity, and there's tons of public land in California if you're willing to work. However, the quality of the hunting has definitely dropped in California, at least in the areas that I've gone back to since I had left. But I used to do a lot of backpack hunting in the wilderness areas up there, and I've shot, 15 Pope and Young bucks, between combined private and public land. So yeah, there's a ton of opportunities in California. It's really, I don't know. I don't want to call it a sleeper state by any stretch, but just as far as opportunities to get out, not necessarily the quality of the opportunities, but there are lots of places to go.
Yeah. That's kind of what we've heard too. Tell, what was your first hunt in Colorado? How did that take place?
So the first hunt that I did in Colorado, I actually hunted with Fred Eichler on a guided hunt, on a late season mule deer hunt down near Trinidad. And so it's one of those December rut mule deer hunts. And I didn't end up killing a buck on that hunt. And it actually was the only one of the group that didn't. I think there was 4 of us, if I remember correctly, and everyone but me shot bomber bucks. And it was one of those, I just got impatient at the end and just finally killed a doe. I was freezing my butt off and decided it was like the last day. And I could have hunted the evening and probably should have, but I ended up just tagging out on a doe. But on that hunt, we met a game warden that turned myself and my hunting partner onto his personal favorite mule deer spot in Colorado, which we then hunted for probably another dozen years, and just unreal spot. I mean, we were seeing Boone and Crockett bucks literally every time that we hunted this unit. And finally the mountain lions got pretty bad in there, and it was getting harder and harder to find bucks. And I ended up moving to a different area. But that basically got me hooked in Colorado. Moved to a different unit, started hunting that one, and I've been hunting the other unit now for, I don't know, 14 or 15 years, something like that.
Wow. Was Fred running a guide service, or was he a friend of yours that you were going hunting with? Or
no, he was running a guide service at that time. Yeah. So I was hunting with a guy named Lon Lauber, who was an outdoor writer and photographer up there in Alaska. So he'd come down to the lower 48 every year, but he also, did tons of, like, he shot 5 Dall sheep with a compound, which not a lot of bow hunters have done that. And, he used to write for all different magazines. He was sponsored by Browning and later by Matthews. And so I had met him when I had an archery shop back in the early 90s, and he and I hit it off, and we started doing a lot of hunting together. And I think we hunted together for, I don't know, a dozen years or something. And that rolled over from the 90s into the 2000s when we started hunting Colorado there.
Gotcha. And so I'm trying to put it all together here. You were running a bow shop in Northern California?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place.
No. We're getting it.
Yep. When I graduated from high school, I had graduated up in Humboldt County, and which is an hour and say a half from the Oregon border. And my mom and dad divorced when I was 5. My dad moved further north up into Northern California, and then my mom stayed about an hour north of San Francisco, in that same kind of general area of that commune I had grown up on there. So I bounced back and forth through my childhood, living in Sonoma County, just north of San Francisco, and then up to Humboldt County. So every other year I went to a different school. And see, I forgot where I was going with this here.
We were talking about the bow shop you ran.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So when I graduated from high school, then I moved down to Santa Rosa. I got into construction down there, and I started doing hardwood floors, stairs, and handrails. And
that makes sense.
And then an opportunity came along for me to pair up with a guy to buy out our local archery shop. The guy was retiring. So I took on a partnership, went to taxidermy school in Montana, and was doing hardwood floors basically from like 6 a.m. till noon when the archery shop opened. Then I'd bomb over the archery shop and work there in the shop, either doing bow stuff or doing taxidermy work, and had that for about a year and a half. And it was basically one of those blind date business partnerships, and did not pan out. The guy kind of came to me as a self-professed business guru, but literally couldn't balance a checkbook. And so that didn't last too long, unfortunately. And so about a year and a half, and then we parted ways, sold the shop. And that was the archery part of it. But that's how I went to one of this predated the ATA show. At the Vegas shoot, they used to have manufacturers come to the Vegas shoot, and that, like I said, predated the ATA. And then that's where I had met Lon, was at one of those. I think it was in 1993. Okay. And he wanted to kill a Colombian blacktail. I wanted to hunt Sitka blacktail. So we kind of did a swap hunt, and then we hit it off so well. We hunted together every year on multiple hunts for years after that. And he knew Fred Eichler, and so that's how we kind of got connected on the whole Fred Eichler connection.
Yeah, gotcha. Were those predominantly compound bows that you guys were working on out of the shop?
Yeah, it was all compound. I did a little bit of trad. So I bought my first Black Widow while I had my shop, I bought my first, quote unquote, custom stick bow when I had my shop there. I bought a Black Widow and killed a deer, and I think I killed a pig with that one as well. But actually, while I was there, while I had my shop, I also met Charlie Bisharat, who started Stalker Stickbows. We were looking at leasing a club to kind of book hunts through our archery shop there, and I bumped into Charlie on that lease, and that's how I met Charlie. And then eventually, almost 15 years later, end up buying Stalker Stickbows from him, like 13 years later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And when did he start it?
So he started it in the late 80s. I think it was 89, 87, somewhere right in there. And he he went to college, played football up there in Oregon, and got, was super into traditional bow hunting. And he was working with, I can't believe I'm going to forget the name of the Bowyer up there. It'll come to me. Any case, he was buying bows from a Bowyer up in Oregon. And the guy finally is like, hey, you need to stop buying bows from me. Come up here and I'll teach you how to build them. So he drove up there, and Charlie learned how to build them. and then started building them himself. Meanwhile, he met a lady, and I think she had one child when he met her, if I remember correctly. They ended up having 3 more kids as he's doing construction and kind of going from hobby bow building into starting to ramp up this business. And he eventually got Stalker Stickbows to the point where he was looking at, quitting his day job in construction and then building stickbows full time. And then his boss offered him a job to be a construction superintendent. And he, this came with 401k and benefits and all this. And so, you have to pursue your dream in one hand or take the conservative route with, a guaranteed paycheck and retirement and bonuses and all this. And so he ended up going that direction. And so basically the company at that point, I think this was 1997, he just basically folded, shuttered it because he was at that point, went on salary and was working like a madman. And his wife, while they're raising kids, his wife is a professional photographer. And so the company, he actually approached me at the time he was shutting it down and offered to sell it to me, but he wanted way more money than what I had, available to buy it. And so I had to pass on it. And then fast forward 10 years, and he reaches back out to me again. And this was in 2007. And he said, he's like, hey, my wife is, wanting behind their house, they had a granny unit. And that's where the bow shop was set up in. And she wanted it to be able to run her studio. And so she wasn't having to rent space in town. And so he's like, hey, I'm getting evicted out of my studio. I need to sell my business. Are you interested? And I just sold a rental property, so I had some money, and we worked out a deal on it, and that's how I ended up with Stalker Stickbows after 18 years of doing hardwood floors, stairs, handrails, and at that point I had a cabinet shop. I was running 13 employees and was just kind of like I was kind of getting burned out of construction.
Yeah.
So I spent 7 years at that point once I bought Stalker. Ramping, because the company was dead at that point. No bows had been built in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it was basically starting from the ground up, except that I had all of the limb forms and, all the riser, making materials. I had the formulas, but I just, had to rebuild the customer base. And so I started doing that in 2007 and gradually winding down my construction business while I was ramping up Stalker Stickbows. And then in 2012, shuttered my construction business, started doing bows full time, and didn't take a paycheck for the first year that I was doing it full time. I just was putting the money back into the business, trying to figure out marketing and all that stuff, putting out catalogs and trying to learn social media. And had a friend of mine, a person that was actually introduced to me that came on and really helped me ramp up the social media thing, the end of it there. Ryan Sampe lives out in Hawaii, and he helped me tremendously. I didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground about social media and didn't realize the value of it, back there in the early aughts,
So when you bought the Stalker brand, had you personally built any bows at that point?
I'd only built self bows when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I hadn't built any laminated bows, and I'd actually traded Charlie for a Stalker bow in 96. I took him on a bear hunt up in Northern California, up one of my wilderness spots there. And he built me a bow in exchange for that. So I had a Stalker, from the end of his building era there, but I had not yet built one myself. And I'll tell you, man, the learning curve was steep. I built and threw away so many limbs, trying to get them straight and aligned and all that. And it was tough go. And I started really questioning what I had done when I first started building them. And I would venture to say, had I just tried to start building bows and didn't have the financial investment into having bought this company in the beginning, I probably would have got discouraged and not continued doing it. But because I had, taken
skin in the game,
good chunk of my wife and I's, investment there, and dropped it into buying this company, I was pretty well committed, because she wasn't super in favor of it in the beginning. She, since came on board and was very supportive of it. But at the beginning, she was seriously raising an eyebrow at what I had done.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, so South, when you bought it, it sounds like there was some equipment that came with it. You mentioned like the limb forms and stuff like that. So mainly what you bought was the goodwill of the company and the equipment.
Yeah. He had a lot of raw materials, which, I mean, a lot of the stuff that he used, I don't use. So I still, what is this, 18 years later, I still have a lot of his raw materials, and I just need to scrap heap them because they're just taking up storage room. And because I've been doing a lot of exotic hardwood veneers and stuff, and then with bamboo cores in the limbs. So a thin veneer that covers the bamboo core. And what he was doing was he was taking like red elm and then dyeing it. And then that was, red elm natural, red elm dyed. And that was, much more limited from an artistic standpoint and what he was offering. And I have made, massive changes from the artistic standpoint, and quite a few functional changes, like the limb designs he had, I don't use anymore. I've got my own limb designs. So really what I bought from him, I have 2 risers, one bow model, 2 different riser lengths is the only thing that still remains the same. And even those, I've changed like the aesthetic design as well as grip profiles and what have you. So yeah, not a lot has remained the same since the time I took over.
Yeah, well,
but even he gave me a very important foundation to start off of.
Sure.
Yeah, well, even in a period of 10 years, you can imagine like materials change, technology, design changes. Did Charlie stick around and teach you any of that stuff? I mean,
So with the purchase of the company, I got, I think it was 5 days of training, which became 3 weekends, which were 1.5 days of training.
So 3 weekends he gave you.
Yeah. So it really, it was drinking from a fire hose and trying to absorb, all of this stuff and trying to absorb all this stuff and take copious notes and then at the same time trying to work bow building into my full-time job of doing construction. So, I'd get home from a week working out of town, because I did a lot of work still down in the Bay Area, down near Santa Rosa when I had moved back to Humboldt. And it was a lot. It was drinking from a fire hose. So like 1 month, I might get 2 days of bow building, and then it might be 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then I'd get back in the bow shop again, then try to remember what all the mistakes I'd made from the last time I was building limbs, and try not to repeat those same mistakes. And then that next month I might get 10 days of building bows in and make some real headway. But then again, there'd be another week or 10 days before I'd get a chance to get back in. So it was sporadic in the beginning. And then I finally realized it's like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be spending consistently more time doing it without these wide gaps, or I'm just going to be throwing raw materials and labor away. And so I made a more focused commitment to spending a more consistent amount of time building them. And then that's where I was really able to start, some gains in my abilities there.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked out as always.
Blacked out. Yeah. Big surprise for everyone. 80
pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. We just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt, like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt. I'm going to ask you a really loaded question. You can just dumb it down and shorten it up as much as you want. But essentially, how do you build a stick bow?
Well,
You know what I mean?
So-
just in terms of like how long does it take? How long did it take you then? You know what I mean? What are the main components? Like, is it happening over the course of a few days, a few weeks, a few months?
Yeah. So typically what we do is we batch build. So we will start, somewhere between 10 to 14 bows at a time. I like to start in the 7 to 10 range because it gets hard to keep track all the details if you got too many of them going at once.
Yeah.
I can start a bow in the morning and I can have it depending on the bow model. If it's one of our SL model, which is the straight accent stripe, it requires fewer glue ups.
Right.
I can have one of those in the spray booth by the end of the day. And then it takes a couple more days to get it through the spray booth. If we're doing one of our FXT models, which is a little fancier and has more individual glue ups, that's a 2-day process to get one into the spray booth. And I've actually, for people that are interested in how things are made and that whole process, I've got a really cool video that I did that's on my YouTube channel, the Stalker Stickbows YouTube channel, that takes it literally from a pile of lumber on my workbench all the way through me spraying a bow step by step, virtually step by step. And I did this video, it was probably 10 years ago, maybe more. So I've changed quite a few processes. As before I was using CNC for profiling the handles and for cutting out our limbs. So you'll see the way I used to do it manually, and now there's some more machinery that's involved, but still most of the steps are on that video. And if somebody is ever aspiring to build bows, they'd have a good idea of what they're getting themselves into if they decided that they wanted to, start manufacturing bows. And that's one of the cool things too. I wanted to say, like, the traditional archery community, specifically, whether you're a bow builder or just a shooter, is a really small, close knit, very inclusive community that are really willing to help each other out. And that extends even to Bowyers. I have multiple Bowyers saved in my phone contacts that I talk to on not a regular basis, but fairly frequently. And whether it's, we're asking about material sourcing or a problem that we're running into, a glass, fiberglass clarity problem, how they tackle an issue, or just venting about a customer that they're having a real challenge with, or whatever, virtually everyone that I've dealt with over the last 18 years, and certainly within the last 5 to 10 years, everyone's very free with information. I mean, I talked to Toby at Black Widow. I just texted him yesterday asking, I ran out of a certain kind of fiberglass and I was trying to find it because everyone's out of stock. And so I reached out to him to see if he had any. And so it's a tight knit community, and everyone's really willing to help each other. And I've got Bowyers that, aspiring Bowyers that reach out to me and ask me questions, and, guys that, whether they're just wanting to build their own so they can hunt with their own bow and kill a deer with their own bow, or, I had one guy reach out to me and he was putting together a business plan and wanting to, really get going with the business. And as much as I can, to a degree that it's not impacting my ability to work and get my own production done, I'll help out as much as I can.
Yeah. You mentioned this network of Bowyers, and so Jeremy and I we have a relationship with Hoyt, transparently, and we shoot compound bows. That's what we have. Jeremy you have a longbow and a recurve bow?
I do.
Right. And so Jeremy's dabbling in that world a little bit, but we're not spending time with Bowyers that often. Like, how are there a lot of them out there? Are there many people running stickbow businesses?
There's quite a few, I don't think that I don't have a real solid handle on it. But I bet I would venture to say that there's probably less than 2 dozen that do it full time as their only source of income.
Yeah.
And I would say that of that 2 dozen guys that have shops that have, 1 or more employees, is probably under 10.
Yeah.
And then I would say there are dozens that just do it as a side hustle.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, that have a full-time job, that just do this for fun, or because they're, you know, they aspire to ramp up and have a, you know, a full-time business. I mean, it's so intrinsically rewarding to me. I'm so grateful. I loved doing construction when I was doing it. I loved it, man. I love woodworking as much as I love bow hunting. And it wasn't until I started building bows that I realized how much it just sucks doing construction.
Yeah.
And now I tell my wife all the time, I am so grateful that I don't have to go load my work van, drive to a job site an hour and a half, unload it in the pouring rain, spend an hour setting all my tools up, you know, deal with customers that are totally unreasonable. 99.9% of my customers that I build bows for are fantastic people.
Yeah.
Occasionally you'll get a challenging customer, but generally speaking, you know, when I was in construction and I came up on this time of year we're dealing with right now, where I'm going to be leaving for 12 days on a hunt this weekend, my customers, if it was going to inconvenience them at all when I was doing construction, there was zero understanding.
Oh yeah.
Everybody that I'm dealing with now that I'm building a bow, it's like, hey, I'm going to try to get your bow out before I leave on this hunt. But if I don't, I'll be back in 12 days and then I'll jump right on it. And they're like, oh, dude, don't worry about it, man. Let me know. Text me pictures from the field. Give me updates, you know, and they're just excited to hear about, you know, the hunt and all this. So totally different client base, and they're like a kid at Christmas waiting for, you know, their bow to get there. So you know, I'll get a guy that orders a bow, and then you know, I'll tell him, okay, it's a 5 to 6 month lead time. In a week later, he's like, hey, did you start my bow? Did you send me progress pictures?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm going to start your bow about 10 days before I need to have it done. So it's going to be quite a while. So, you know, but yeah, everyone's just excited to get their new toy. Right. And I don't blame them at all. It's whenever I have something on order that I'm anticipating, it kills me waiting for it.
Well, South, what's the market looking like? To what Jared said, you know, so I'm 41. I've killed a ton of deer with a compound, and so kind of the bow hunter in me is like, make it harder, right? Like that's what I love to do is just make it harder. So, you know, and I grew up, you know, shooting a recurve in the backyard, you know, basically finding my dad's in the basement and just kind of being like, hey, I want to go shoot this bow. But, you know, now I'm looking at it more of like, I want to continue to invest more and more time into the traditional side because of the challenge. And like, that's what drives me. That's what makes it so exciting. In the time that you've had the business, I'm sure you've seen ebb and flows, but do you feel like there's like a resurgence around the traditional right now because of things like that?
Yeah, I really do. There's a lot of interest in, you know, in guys shooting stick bows. And I think part of it helps that, you know, 20 years ago, there was a lot of what I call stick bow Nazis that really were, you know, training wheels, you know, compound bows, we don't want to see them. And, you know, it wasn't a very welcoming community. And I think that has gradually changed over time to where now, you know, there's a lot more welcomeness there, if you will, in the stick bow community to guys that are transitioning or expressing an interest in transitioning from shooting a compound. And part of that probably has just been a gradual infiltration of guys that shot a compound and then like myself, that gradually, you know, transitioned to shooting a compound, and then just kind of a mentality shift, as well as kind of the older age class that had that mindset kind of exiting out. And then also, I think a lot of concern about the amount of crossbows now that are coming into archery seasons and really starting to change the harvest statistics in the archery season. And as traditional bow hunters across the United States, we are a very small percentage of overall numbers of hunters. And I think some people are finally starting to realize that, you can't be the vast minority of a group and expect to get any traction and getting anything done.
Right.
And so, you have to look for allies. And even, the bulk of the guys that are shooting compounds that I've talked to are uncomfortable with the crossbows coming into the archery seasons and the impact that they're making in harvest statistics. And they're looking at the writing on the wall and going, man, I've got a friend that is dabbles in traditional archery, very, very, excellent shot with a compound, has a friend that wanted to get into shooting a crossbow. The guy bought a crossbow, doesn't really know anything about, and brought it over to my guy who shoots a compound. My friend that shoots a compound sighted this thing in for him, said he was shooting 2-3 inch groups at 100 yards with this crossbow, which then he could just hand off to his buddy. And, just like you're handing off a rifle to somebody else, where you don't really need to know the mechanics. You don't have to have the investment into practicing that you do when you're shooting a compound bow or a traditional bow. So I think that there's a lot of concern, just with the future of archery and archery seasons and bag limits and opportunities. And so I think that, there's a number of factors that are coming together, combined with like what you are expressing, where you're looking just for a greater challenge. And to be honest, I'll be completely transparent. When I bought Stalker Stickbows, I was like, can I continue to build, continue to shoot my compound and build stickbows? I didn't want to go back to being a vegan, man. I was going to be back to eating tofu again. And I had done enough hunting with a traditional bow to know, how challenging it was. And hunting the West, in this more open country, it's not like you're hunting back east where you can set yourself up for a sub 20-yard shot out of a tree stand. You're spot and stalking and things, it's a much more dynamic situation. And so I really was concerned about my ability to be able to be consistently successful. But to be honest with you, it has made me a way better hunter. And I just adapted, and I've had a really good run of, I'm north of 80% on my success rate on mule deer since I picked up a stick bow. And,
wow.
That's, I don't know what I would imagine that overall, harvest statistics with the bow are probably for deer are probably somewhere in that 15% range for Western, and so I'm well north of that. And I'm not an Olympic shooter as far as skill level goes by any stretch. I mean, you can watch my videos and you'll learn that real quick. So there's guys that are way better shots than I am. And my success rate if I had more natural ability, would be, closer to 100%, because I can't remember a hunt that I've been on that I haven't had a quality opportunity and missed a shot if I didn't, notch my tag. So, it can be done. Absolutely. And if you're looking for a greater challenge, and then, picking up a stick bow is a great way to do it. And what I tell people is, like, if you're thinking about it with a compound, what I would do, particularly if you're back east, you have the ideal scenario, because you generally have more liberal bag limits than we do out here. Usually you can shoot a buck and a fistful of does. And what I would do is I would focus on killing a buck with your compound, and then dedicate your doe tags to your stick bow. And then you can bank a bunch of experience with your stick bow, and I guarantee you will be just as excited when you kill a doe with your stick bow as you did with your compound with a buck. I mean, I remember I had an Iowa tag, which comes with a doe tag. And I went back, I can't remember what year it was, but I went back there with a compound, and I brought my stick bow with me, and I went 12 days before I killed my buck with a compound. And then I had the next morning to hunt before I had to go catch my plane. And had a doe come in, and I was like shaking so bad, almost falling out of my tree, and was able to hold it together and kill that doe. And I was absolutely just as excited, felt similar pressure as I did when I had that buck come underneath me at, after 12 days of waiting for him.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I mean, I think it is, and maybe it's just kind of our listeners and the style that we promote from, when hunting season comes around, I mean, that's, our brains are just dedicated to it. And, I think as a lot of us start to be more successful with compounds, naturally, I think the wanting to be better, wanting to challenge yourself more, whether that's with a higher class of animal, or in this case, a tougher weapon to use to do it. I feels like I just am feeling some sort of resurgence around that. And maybe it's also a little bit of rebellion around technology.
It is. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right? Because we're feeling that pressure a lot. Oh, is that us?
I'm good. I can hear you.
Yeah. So we're, I think the technology side, we're feeling that, more than ever, right? Whether it's, I think mapping and cell cams and everything, just in daily life. So maybe it's that, trying to just pull back to that beginning or simpler times, maybe, even if you want to say that.
Yeah, I would definitely, agree with you there. I mean, so I did my first backpack hunt when I was 17 in 1986. And I had, one of those, what you would see now at a garage sale, old Coleman Peak. That was I don't even remember what kind of frame it was. It was one of those aluminum frame packs you'd see the Boy Scouts use. So, and this was Coleman way back before there was the fad of the bivvy hunting and, and backpack hunting and all this. It was just, I wanted to get somewhere more remote, and I knew that I couldn't get there and back and hunt, before dark. And so I started kind of in that era when there was like nothing for information. And nowadays, and I would get on I would write a letter to the U.S. Geological Survey Center and have them send me the map books for topo maps for each individual state that I was interested in. Then I'd go through these map books, try to figure out which topo map I needed to get. And this was all had to be done months in advance of hunting season, because, dealing with the government agency and the U.S. mail, you had multiple things going against you. So then you'd buy these topo maps and hope that you got enough of them to cover the area that you wanted to go into. You had to learn how to read a topo map. And, there was no Onyx maps. There was nothing like this. Then you'd be looking at trails. You'd be buying, the National Forest Service maps to find out where the trails were that in the trailheads. And then you'd be either buying or going to the library to find a backpacking book that told you how to get to the trailheads. And then you're mining these backpacking books, looking for photographs of the areas that you were going that were printed in these books, because Google Earth didn't exist. So there was such an absence of information compared to what you have now, where, back then I remember hunting Catalina Island, and oh man, here's a rabbit hole here for you. So Catalina Island's off the coast of Los Angeles in Southern California. And, hundreds of years ago, the Spanish, when they were coming out, would release goats on the island and pigs, so they'd have a food source as they came sailing by. And those, of course, proliferated. And so I don't know when they started bow hunting them, but archery shops down there in Southern California started organizing bow hunts out there. So you could go over there for $300 back in the late 80s. You could go over there and hunt for 3 days, and it was unlimited goats and pigs that you could shoot in this 3 day period. And so you'd have a group of 30 or 40 guys that would show up that would ride the ferry out there. And I'm telling you, man, it was so much fun. And you learned so much because you were just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, stalk a group of goats, you blow them out, you go down into another canyon around another corner, and then you'd be into, another group. And Catalina Island, I can't remember. I think it's like 20 miles? I don't know. I could be way off, but it's a big island. And, my thought process when I first went out there was like, oh, we'll just herd them to the end of the island. No, it's a plenty big island that there's no way you're doing anything to influence these animals. But it was so much fun getting out there and chasing these critters around. But what I was getting at was I ran into 2 other guys. So they would load you up in multiple trucks and then drive you out and drop you off wherever you wanted. And then they come back and pick you up on the road at dark. And I remember specifically, I was like 19 years old and I was going out there by myself. I had just heard about this, and I needed to explore this opportunity. And there was a couple of guys that got dropped off in the same spot as me, and they were so worried about getting lost that they didn't go, I bet, 50 yards off the road.
Wow. And
I just dove into a canyon and went for it, and ended up, I don't know where I ended up, but I ended up, you find a road at night, and eventually a truck would come by and pick you up and bring you back to camp. But if
it's an island, you can't get lost.
Yeah, you walk far enough, you hit water.
You hit the ocean.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can always signal a nearby fishing boat. But if you didn't know your way around, if you didn't have woodsmanship skills back then, there was no Onyx map, there was no GPSs, there was no nothing to help you out. And the burden of the barrier of entry for bow hunting back then was so much higher. You couldn't take your bow down to your local bow shop and have them tune it. You learned how to do that yourself. And so nowadays, like you said, the technology is so much different. There's so much information. You could take your bow into a bow shop, drop it off, come back, pick it up, just like you're getting your car tuned up.
Yep.
And they'll have it shooting bullet holes, and really it's invaluable to know how to do it yourself, because if you ever have something go wrong in the field, or if that person that tuned your bow has a different, grips the bow differently or whatever, then you still need to be able to make minor adjustments. But YouTube is a fantastic source. Podcasts like this are a fantastic source. There's so much information out there that after a while, I totally agree with you. It starts to feel like, you become more and more reliant on technology, or the technology becomes a greater and greater role, and your personal input into the system becomes less and less. And if you want to change that equation real quick, put your compound down, pick up a stick bow, because it's a different ball game.
Yeah, it's kind of wild when you think about it. I mean, I remember growing up and getting dropped off on one side of a mountain, and basically I just worked my way back to camp. And I don't really know if I ever looked at maps as much as I just had boots on the ground for, years and years of just walking that area. And I would, walk my way back to camp. And, I know there's plenty of people now that if you dropped them in the woods and you said, hey, no Onyx or whatever, and take away their phone, they'd be in trouble. Like they couldn't even tell you which way is north.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's and it's a perishable skill too. As you as you rely more and more on technology, then you kind of start to forget some of those. I've been out when I had this predates Onyx, but I had a GPS. I was hunting the top of a mesa. And had the fog roll in, and in the top of this mesa, there was like virtually no landmarks, just kind of rolling hills, rolling country. And I had a devil of a time finding my way back to camp. I mean, the fog was so thick, you could see 50 yards in any direction, but there was no markers. And so, if your bearing was off just slightly getting back to camp, then you would walk right past it and just keep on going. So, I mean, the thing is that, it's one of those double-edged swords. Like let's just take this hunt that I'm going on in Nevada. So I've been doing this same hunt in similar, the same general area of the mountain range since I think it was 98 was the first time that I hunted it. So for almost 30 years. And this was, again, predated my knowledge of the internet, certainly predated OnX or Google Earth or anything like that, any of these resources. It was back when I was using those USGS maps. And I would see typically one other camp in a 9-day hunt up there. The last time I was up there, I saw there was 22 trucks at the trailhead on opening morning. I mean, it's insane how many people are getting out now compared to when technology and knowledge, the knowledge base was more limited. So it definitely, there's pros and cons. It's harder to get away from people. You have to work a lot harder. You have to be willing to stay out there. If you get out there and there's a lot of people, you just have to hope that a lot of your competition bags out and you have the grit to stay longer than the others. Otherwise, it can be an exercise in frustration for sure.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, hard to believe, but Deer Grow has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at deergrow.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer. South, you mentioned some of the crossbow dynamic stuff earlier. So for perspective, we're from like the Pittsburgh area, southwestern Pennsylvania, and we're hunting like Ohio, Kentucky, some of the Midwestern stuff. And certainly in the whitetail space, we see a ton of that. I mean, it's like 70% of the archery harvest in some of these states is crossbows at this point. Are you guys seeing that in the West as well? I mean, it's hard for me to imagine like a spot and stock guy, walking with his crossbow. Is that happening?
Yeah. So Colorado, where I hunt, their crossbows aren't allowed during the archery. I believe Wyoming they are. I think that they're less practical, like to try to carry a crossbow around than a compound bow. But it would be interesting. I haven't looked at any statistics for Wyoming to see if there is much impact from, because the crossbows are getting more and more compact. And there are absolutely
Throw it over your shoulder.
Massive benefits of, not having to draw your bow while your game is within bow range, and try to get a shot off.
I mean, dude, think about in more like coulee country, like the Dakotas and stuff where, you're bumping them up out of coulees. Yep. Like with a rifle, you just basically wait for them to stop and turn back and look at you. You could essentially hunt that way with a crossbow.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised Colorado doesn't have it, just with how liberal they are on everything.
Well, and that's why I asked the question is the West does seem to be a lot more conservative when it comes to technology in hunting. Like,
trail cameras
being banned and stuff. And
lighted knocks in some states not being able to be
these
used.
Eastern states, we just keep going. We're like, hey, bait, have at it. Trail, cell cameras, have at it. We just keep giving them more and more. But the West seems to be pulling back a little bit.
It seems like I would say the biggest difference is, and correct me if I'm wrong, South, is like in our areas, like the Midwest and East, and they're not shy about it. The DNR's main goal is we want to just kill deer. Period. Like we just need to kill them.
That is the difference.
Is that the same feeling out there, or because of like the draw restrictions and these very limited tags? Like it seems like there's some mindset of
managing the resource.
Yeah, managing the resource.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not writing policy for any game and fish department, and I'm not in their heads, but that's kind of my impression, is that we have a much more finite resource, and there's a much greater demand on the herds, whether it be mule deer or elk out here. And the resources are fewer than what the demand is already. And I don't know anywhere that we're over capacity, over objectives. Let me rephrase that: over objectives on deer or elk and when I say deer, I mean mule deer specifically, in any of these Western states. It seems like everywhere you hear about mule deer herd numbers are down, elk numbers are down, and the demand for those tags are high. And I think that if you brought a more efficient weapon into a primitive weapons season that was structured around a low harvest success rate, then you're just going to put that much more pressure on the animals. And fortunately, I think that most of the Western game managers, the biologists, recognize that, and the game departments have kept crossbows out largely. I think it's kind of more on the fringe states like Nebraska. You can hunt mule deer. They have mule deer and whitetail, and I think that in states like that, kind of on the border. I don't know what their laws are.
Yeah, Kansas, you can use it for both as well.
Yeah, so I think that in those states that kind of are on the border of the East and West, they're a little bit more liberal in their views. But I'm kind of surprised that Wyoming is that you're able to, and I need to verify that. I'm 99% sure in Wyoming you can use a crossbow.
Interesting. Well, this is is this the first year that a lot of Colorado is going to be lottery based versus just wide open?
For elk?
Yeah,
yes.
For elk.
For non-resident, for elk, yes.
So that'll be an interesting one to see. It's going to take a few years here, but in 3 or 4 years, does that make a significant impact on the quality and the amount of the resource that's out there? Maybe.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is, if I'm not mistaken, from now till 2028, they're kind of like in a information gathering. So there are those restrictions for non-resident, for draw, for elk, but I don't think that the quotas are all that low. I think they're trying to figure out which units people are going to be putting in for, because before there were some of the units were over the counter, some of them were draw for non-resident. And so what you could do as a non-resident, you could purchase a non-resident over the counter tag, and you could hunt a number of over the counter units. Now all of those units are over the counter. So now now they're all draw.
Right.
So now they're going to be able to monitor specifically which units are getting, how many applicants. And so then they can kind of set up their season structure or tag quotas accordingly. That's my understanding. And hopefully I'm not misrepresenting anything there, but I think the major changes will happen in 2029, if I'm not mistaken.
In terms of actually putting limitations on those?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And I just Googled it while we were talking. In Wyoming, crossbows are permitted for hunting during the archery season. Minimum draw weight of 90 pounds, bolt 16 inches, etc. But yes, so Wyoming, you can use Wyoming. They've got some pretty liberal seasons up there. Like if you draw an archery, if you draw a tag, you can hunt with that tag during. I don't want to miss. There are certain tags that are archery specific, but there are general tags that you could hunt with during the bow season with a bow. Then if you do not kill something, you can go back during the rifle season with that same tag and then hunt during the rifle. So
with a rifle or with a bow?
With a rifle.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's like a carryover tag.
Yeah. So they're a little bit more liberal. That, who knows, that might change as their animals, get, more or under more pressure, or their objectives are under, objective, their deer numbers or elk numbers are under objective. Maybe they'll make some changes there, but they do, that for now, at least.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the changes in Colorado? I know you said it's kind of fact finding for now, maybe in 2029, but I've hunted in Colorado. I killed two bulls as a non-resident over the past 10 years or so. And it seems like, the perception from us flatlanders, we're like, oh, anybody can go to Colorado. It's over the counter and they got all these tags. And it seems like it probably is warranted, right? If you're saying, hey, you got 20 trucks at the trailheads, there's probably a little bit too much pressure being put on. So are you in favor kind of what's going on there?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I hate to see anyone lose the opportunity to be able to go on a hunt that they want to go on. But the reality is, if you have a finite resource and you have more and more, increasingly, more and more people that want that same resource, you can either hunt them to extinction, or you can manage the opportunities. And you can manage the opportunities by allotting fewer tags, or you can offer more opportunities but restrict the technology.
Right.
And so, like, if a person is a rifle hunter, in my mind, then you're an idiot if you do not muzzleloader hunt Colorado, because the muzzleloader hunting falls right in the middle of archery season. And there are some fantastic opportunities for muzzleloader hunting in Colorado. If I was a rifle hunter and I wanted to shoot a big buck in Colorado, 100% I would go out and buy a muzzleloader. If there were, this is totally self-serving. I'm going to say this as a disclaimer right up front. But what I would love to see is a early archery season. So I think it was about 5 years ago, they changed the opening weekend of archery deer and archery elk from the last Saturday in August to September 2nd. So it used to close the last Sunday in September. So now we run all the way to the 30th of September, which has been great for elk hunters, because you get the tail end of the rut every year a little bit better than, sometimes that Saturday would fall really early in the month of September and your hunt might get cut off on the 24th of September. So I 100% understand it from the elk hunter standpoint. Totally bummed out as a mule deer fanatic that
you're missing 4 days of velvet.
So now, like, I hunted Colorado for 20 years, never saw a hardhorn buck the first 10 days of September. Now I'm regularly seeing probably a third, if my hunt goes the duration of 10 days, maybe even up to a half of the bucks are hardhorn by the end of my hunt. And if the Saturday falls wrong in the year, muzzleloader hunting is starting during that first week of archery. So now all of a sudden I was stalking a buck and had a muzzleloader hunter shoot at it, shot, at this buck right out from underneath me on a stalk, in the first week of archery season. And it's super discouraging when that happens. I was literally 11 miles back in and, had a guy shooting at a buck I was stalking with a muzzleloader. So, I would love to see a traditional only archery season that started back when, the old season date was that last Saturday in August, with the caveat that you had to commit to shooting a traditional bow the whole season. So that tag was only good for a traditional bow.
Interesting.
So you had to make a sacrifice. You couldn't, in other words, you couldn't shoot a stick bow for the first week and then September 2nd transition to your compound, then hunt the rest of the archery season. You would have to make that commitment.
That would put some high stakes on it.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously with a stick bow, you're going to have a lower success rate with a stick bow than you would with a compound, but you could offer more traditional archery tags, more hunter opportunity with that setup than you could if you were just increasing archery tags in general.
That's interesting.
Because the bulk of those archery tags would be going to guys shooting a compound who have higher success rates.
Yeah, I think, and I'm one of them, a lot of people would jump at the opportunity. You know, if you said, hey, you're going to get to hunt a week earlier, you just have to use a traditional bow. I think half of us are taking one step, and then you say, but you have to commit to the recurve for the entire season. A bunch of guys are like, ooh. Well,
I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, that's and you just, you know, any of this stuff, especially around the stickbow side, is you just have to be willing to know that there's a good chance that you might eat your tag. Like, you know, that's what people have asked that already, of just me talking about going to trad more. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm okay if I eat my tag, you know.
Well, that's the reality for other weapons too. I mean, I have the same mindset with a compound bow.
Yeah, but it's
definitely escalated. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, your odds are just so much higher with other weapons, and it's a hard thing for people to do. I mean, especially if you ask that of someone who hasn't killed a lot of animals. Like, that's a tough spot. There's
a tipping point too. I think the mindset is probably like with a compound bow, like depending on the hunt or the state or you know, any scenario you want to envision here, it's like, hey, I might eat my tag on this. That's kind of how we feel. I'm looking at this season, like, I don't think so. I'm doing everything I can to create opportunities, but I might eat my tag this year because I'm willing to hold out for a quality of animal. If you were to put a stick bow in my hand and say, that's it, you know, the mindset is like, I'm probably going to eat my tag.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I willing to accept that, you know?
And I would say that most hunters aren't.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, they're out there
if you think about it in the context of a guy that has been a rifle hunter that wants to transition to bow hunting and realizes that setting down his rifle that he can, you know, tip deer over at 400 yards, and now all of a sudden he's going to be shooting a compound and he could, you know, maybe his max effective range is 60 yards. That's a massive, you know,
disadvantage.
Yep. But he is going from a rifle season where he's going to be contending with a lot more, you know, generally speaking, a lot more hunting pressure, and hunting a little bit later in the year. Animals are going to probably be less visible, harder to find. And he's getting the benefit of moving. And I'm talking about like a Western mule deer hunt for this, you know, the sake of this example. He's going to be hunting them in velvet in the high country where they're more visible. He's probably going to see more animals. So it's going to be an entirely different experience. He gets to, you know, hunt in a entirely different season. And then you contrast that with a guy that is hunting with a stick bow, has zero incentive to set his compound down and pick up a stick bow other than intrinsic desires on his part, because you're not getting any additional benefit. You are literally elbow to elbow with your hunting partners that are shooting a compound. So it has, you know, the incentive all comes from inside what you value as a hunter. You're not getting any benefit by putting your compound down and picking up a stick bow. It's just that, hey, I want a greater challenge. And so, you know, I completely understand that reluctance to pick down a compound because you're not incentivized,
right?
You know, unless you're in Oregon, or now Utah has a couple of traditional or primitive weapon seasons, and, you know, that are coming online. And I'm excited. I've never participated in one of those seasons, but I'm excited to see how that goes. And the ones in Oregon have been running for, you know, multiple years now. And I think there's probably more data available for those hunts. But, you know, to this point right now in the bulk of the United States, there's really no incentive to put your compound down and pick up a stick bow unless it's something that you have personal goals.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just self-driven at this point.
Like,
yeah, and all of the Midwest and East, I mean, they don't I say this like the DNR doesn't want you to do that. They want you to kill more. They want you to have higher success opportunities, right? It almost goes against their goal. Same with the quality of animal, right? It's like, you know, if we're talking about passing deer to try to get them to 5 years old or whatever it is, it's like they want them dead. They want you to kill them.
It is a super interesting proposal. I've really never thought about like dedicating yourself to a weapon, you know, and whether you're associating an advantage of like longer seasons or something with that. I think it's pretty interesting. Like if you know,
well, so Kentucky has, at least from an East Coast standpoint,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so if you're going to shoot with a stick bow, you're going to get 3 weeks or whatever it is at the beginning of the season, and then you can hunt alongside it. But you're a stick bow hunter. To it. You hunt with that weapon.
Yeah, that's the trick that nobody else has done. Like, we open, I think it's September 6th or 7th in Kentucky this year, and the first 2 weeks you can't use a crossbow. It's only vertical unless you're, I think youth I think just youth could use a crossbow.
Right.
But then 2 weeks into it, crossbow opens up at that point. But an archery tag's an archery tag, right? Like I could essentially put my stick bow down and pick up a crossbow.
But when crossbow opens up, you can switch right over.
Exactly. So but I mean, to Sal's point, like the beauty of being in the East and the Midwest is because we have more tag availability or even just opportunity from over the counter. Like, so this year in Pennsylvania, I'm using stick bow in Pennsylvania, but maybe in Ohio, I'm using my compound, right? Like I can set my goals differently and I've got opportunities. So I'm more than willing to eat my tag in Pennsylvania to go up on public land here in the mountains and kill a buck with a stick bow. At the same time, I know that I could, you know, quench my thirst per se by going and killing one in Ohio or Kentucky with a compound. So, you know, you have that flexibility and that opportunity to be able to kind of start to dabble in it, right? Start to see if that's the right feel for you. And, you know, I assume it's like anything. The reason that we're all kind of addicted to the archery side is, you know, once you have a little taste of success there, it's like the needle in the vein, right? It's probably going to just, it's going to keep reeling you in and reeling you in at that point.
Well, let me ask this, Al, just so we can understand like your perspective on a season. Is most of your hunting happening like in the velvet season early for mule deer, or are you hunting like all the way through the fall? Are you coming to the Midwest and doing whitetail hunts and stuff, or what does the season look like?
Yeah. So like the last probably 3 or 4 years for me has been almost exclusively Western stuff. And when I say Western, I mean, you know, Colorado and if I get a tag for Nevada.
Okay.
So I have not hunted whitetails in maybe 4 years. And I have not had a buck whitetail tag in several years before that. My whitetail hunting, typically my wife loves whitetail and she will not put up a qualm if I go on a whitetail hunt just to put some meat in the freezer. And I love shooting does. So, you know, generally speaking, when I do a whitetail hunt, it's trying to put some meat in the freezer, some whitetail meat in the freezer. So almost everything I've been doing lately in the last 3 or 4 years certainly has been, you know, stuff on video, in the mountains in the West.
Okay. So mainly high country mule deer. Are you hunting elk? Is that extending into October?
Elk and mule deer. Yeah. So our season's cut off on the 30th of September. So, it's been done. You know, I'm done hunting essentially in Colorado for sure. The 30th of September. And then the last time I hunted whitetails, I had a friend that had a ranch down in Texas and let me come down, shoot some does on his place. And I don't remember, it was December or January or something like that. And then I've got another buddy in Ohio that keeps inviting me that I'm going to have to take him up on it probably this winter and come back and shoot some of his whitetails and just probably fly back there and you know, fly home with some meat or something.
I was going to say, I don't know how you Western guys do it. Like, I know you're going to hunt this weekend, but you have 6 weeks essentially. And then we're not even, our season's Ohio will just open. We basically just opened and you guys are closing.
Ohio's archery season is 4 months long.
Oh, I know. It sucks, man. I mean, it totally sucks. So there are some later season archery opportunities in Colorado, but you get one tag. And so you have to give up your, you know, early season mule deer tag in the mountains to go hunt the Eastern Plains, or, whitetail tag. And I'm just not willing to do that.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. And there's some B list, like doe tags, available for private land and stuff, but I don't have private land connections here in Colorado. So,
wow.
And also, I'm crying the blues here. Like I have it so bad, but I leave Sunday. I'm gone 12 days. I get home. I'm home for 5 days. No, I'm home for a week. Then I leave for another 12 days. Then I get home for 5 days. Then I leave for another 12 days.
Oh,
so
wow.
those are, 2 back-to-back backcountry mule deer hunts and then a backcountry elk hunt. And
wow,
who gets to hunt for 36 days in a year, right? But and that, never mind that I went down to Mexico and chased turkeys down in old Mexico this year too. So, don't cry me a river.
Yeah.
I've got it pretty darn good.
That's pretty cool.
The thing that sucks is that it's all compacted.
It's jammed
into a really
in there.
short time frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I can't pay my rent at the end or my mortgage payment at the end of September, I'll be starting to GoFundMe.
So, I mean, do you, obviously you've got Colorado for the mule deer and the elk. Is the plan or the strategy to always have one other state that you can go and do early season mule deer on?
Nevada this year. That's where he's going.
Yeah. But I mean, I would assume you're going to burn points there, right? So
last year I didn't.
Okay.
So last year, all I did was those 2 hunts in Colorado. I went to Mexico, hunted turkeys in April of 2024, but then all I did for big game was Colorado. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of rough, it makes for a long off season.
Makes you hungry.
Yep. So I'm going to, who knows what'll happen next year as far as tag allocation. Colorado, I'm getting landowner vouchers. So knock on wood, as long as my landowners keep providing me with those opportunities, then I'll continue to have September packed to the gills. Although I've been trying to cash in, I think it'll be 14 points this year on elk for Wyoming, and they keep rejecting me. I've been chasing point creep by half a point. I've been behind the last 5 years. So if I draw elk for Wyoming next year, I literally won't be home a day in September next year. And then if I draw Nevada, it'll be that much worse. So we'll see.
Worse.
Right.
That's terrible. Darn it.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, by the time you get to, so I guess maybe this is a loaded question, Sal. Like, what does October and November look like for you? Just building bows?
Building bows. Yep.
Yeah.
Catching up on orders and putting out, new products for the following year. And this year I've been working on a new catalog for over a year now, and I just didn't get it across the finish line last winter. So this winter, I've got to get that done. And I've also got a new bow model, a Target longbow that I'm working on, that I'll have in for the catalog too. So I've got, 2 big projects to work on in September, the catalog and then that new bow model.
Very cool. Yeah, man. It's just the more that we're getting around Western guys and we're hearing them talk, and I'm like, yeah, but then what do you do after September? Like, do you still hunt? And they're like, well, it's kind of wrapped up by then. I'm like, what?
It's just such a contrast. I mean, imagine we do this podcast year round. I mean, it's a conversation every week that's 2 hours. And so the season, like I said, is 3-4 months, 2 months really is the peak, October, November of the whitetail seasons. But because Jeremy and I own some farms, and a lot of the access that we have is on private farms and stuff. And so it's like year round management of those properties and stuff. And so it's tough to, and we were just out there, we were in Salt Lake and we were in Bozeman and chatting with some of those guys. And we're like, hey, here's what our season here's what we're doing right now. And they're like, yeah, we're just, wait for September. And then we hit it
hard.
We hit it hard in September, and then, wait for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the GDP of these Western states during the month of September. I'm sure it goes down.
Yeah, I would assume the productivity level goes down for sure. Because, it's like if you're a bow hunter in the West, you've got to hit it hard end of August into September, and then that's it.
Well, I'll tell you this, South. We have killed mule deer. Jeremy and I each have killed 1 mule deer. and it was in North Dakota. And I should say, so we've been on 2 mule deer hunts, and the first year we each tagged out. It was like day 2 and 3. It was like great success.
Oh, this is easy. Nothing to it.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Drank all our beer, ate all our food the next morning, and drove home. We were there. We were supposed to be there for 8 or 9 days. We were there for 3, and then we're out.
And we chose that hunt and that state strategically, with looking for kind of like, hey, what's a lower barrier to entry? I mean, we're not ready to drive across the country and then backpack in for 9 to 12 days and then take something off the mountain. So let's find a campground. We'll stay at our truck. We'll come back every night. We can be in good gear. So that's what we did. Yep. We went back a few years later. The conditions had changed because of the drought. We didn't have that same success. So we'll roll that.
Saw a lot of deer, had fun.
We saw deer. We had fun. It was a great hunt. I do think that, at least I do, and I'll spark it in Jeremy too. Like, I definitely have a desire for, and some of it's from seeing your films and stuff like that, for the high country.
Yep.
Mule deer hunt, whether it's in Colorado or I'm just looking at it. I'm like, that's different. That's a different thing than what we did. And so I guess my question is, how are they different? What would somebody need to arm themselves with, or how would you need to be prepared for a hunt like what you're getting ready to do, either in Nevada or in Colorado?
Yeah. So, gear list is the first thing that comes to mind, because car camping versus like a backpack hunt. I mean, I'm getting older now. I'm 56. I'm still, physically capable of backpacking in there, but it's a lot less fun. And particularly if you're trying to film your hunts, then you have a lot of camera gear you're trying to bring in too. So like this hunt that I'm doing next week, we rented 2 pack goats. So it's myself and a buddy of mine that has filmed for me the last couple of years. He's also a traditional bow hunter, and he got a tag this year also. So we're going to trade on and off filming and hunting, which, you have to keep in perspective. At that point, your hunt essentially goes from a 12-day hunt to a 6-day hunt, from your opportunities as a hunter.
Oh, yeah.
So you're making a big sacrifice, but what I'm trying to do is make a film and not so much as trying to film my tag. I want us both to get on camera, both of us. I'm trying to create new content because it's been me on my films, and I have had other people hunt with me over the years, but so far I'm the only one who's killed anything on film when I've hunted with somebody else. So hopefully that changes this year. But anyway, back to the gear. So if you are backpacking in and you're going to set up a base camp and hunt from that base camp, versus you're going to backpack in and then bivouac hunt and then hop around, to me, you never want to be carrying more than you need. But if you're going to be bivouac hunting.
Real quick, South, what is that? What's a bivouac?
Okay. So bivouac camp is essentially just like you're hunting out of what a lot of guys refer to as a spike
camp. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And actually that's not entirely accurate, because typically a spike camp is associated with a base camp.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So let me tell you kind of the ways I've approached it over the years. So I've backpacked in on hunts before, carried my gear around with me the whole time, slept in different spots each day. The advantage of that is that you're hunting new country. You don't necessarily have a set agenda where you need to be that night. You hunt until you run out of daylight. Then you find a spot to set up your tent or your bivy sack, and then you crash out there. Next morning, you wake up, you're right where you started. There's no commuting back to base camp. Very efficient way to hunt from a mileage standpoint. Everything you do is geared towards where you are hunting. You're not wasting valuable energy hiking back and forth. Downside is you're carrying your sleeping bag, your tent, your pad, your stove, all your food for the week with you the whole time. So you really need to have an ultralight mindset when you're doing something like that. You want to be, this is when you pay the big bucks to start shaving ounces off of your pack weight. This is when you look at stuff that, you know, would be luxury items and you are more willing to leave them behind. The alternative is, or one alternative is going in and doing a gear drop or a food drop. And this is what I used to do quite a bit. I'd go in for 8 days. I'd get back into kind of a central location where I was going to be hunting basically the center of the hub, and I'd drop half my food somewhere. And then I would hunt for 4 days, and then I'd come back and reload on food and then hunt. So I'm not having to carry, you know, 10 pounds of food, which generally I'm 2 to 2.5 pounds of food per day. So that would save me having to pack around, you know, around 10 pounds of food for the whole rest of the trip. And so, you know, it's a little bit more efficient from a energy output standpoint, but you still have the benefit of a bivouac hunt. Then the third alternative is you're just hunting from a base camp. So, you know, you can carry a few extra pounds in from the trailhead at that point, maybe a couple extra luxury items, because you're going to basically backpack that in one time, you know, over the course of a maybe 8 or 10 hour grueling day, getting your gear from the trailhead to your base camp. And then you're going to set that down. And then you're only going to be carrying your supplies that you need with you during the day to hunt. So one food bag, 2.5 pounds, plus, you know, for mule deer, it'd be your spotting scope, tripod, kill kit, etc. And then your sleeping bag, tent, you know, pad and all that stuff is going to sit in your base camp. And if you do need to, you know, if your area is blown out, you can pick up your base camp and move it. But typically then you're not going to, you know, you're just going to be reestablishing your base camp at another spot. The alternative again there is you could have a spike camp that you're leaving from your base camp, where maybe you're just venturing out on a single overnight. Maybe you want to check out the far reaches of a ridge that you can't, or it wouldn't be prudent to go all the way out there, you know, wake up 2 hours before first light, hike your butt off to get out there, and then be out there 2 hours after dark. And then your 4 hours of commuting, which you could just carry your, you know, sleeping bag and a bivy sack and crash out under a tree out there.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Lone Wolf Custom Gear.
Man, those Lone Wolf stands have become such a cornerstone of our equipment over, you know, recently, but I mean, also we've been using these stands for a long time, even the original Lone Wolves. They're all built right here in the United States. The lines just keep getting better and better. Cody and Andre and the whole team just keep innovating and introducing new stuff into the line this year. And they've got some new things coming this year.
Yeah, so this year we've got the Patriot Series, which, you know, a lot of people are talking about this as being the cheaper, just fixed position side of things. But let's be honest, they can be mobile too, right? They weigh 12 pounds, but they're built from a value standpoint. So for guys like us who want to have 3, 4, 5 preset stands out there for certain wins, we can put this Patriot Series out there, have them ready. Nothing better than slipping up into one of these fixed position stands that's already set on the right wind.
No doubt. And so this year, as of right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR. It's a one-time use promo code. Gets you 10% off anything on the Lone Wolf Custom Gear website. That's any of the custom gear stuff, any of the Patriot Series. So whether you're planning on getting into one for the first time or you want to stack a big order here before the season, code HUNTR will get you 10% off.
Hunt like a wolf.
There's lots of that.
Well, I mean,
different ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, being able to be obviously very different than what we say, but I mean, at least out here, South, like Jared and I are very much the mobile mindset, right? Like in terms for us to be efficient and kill deer, like we have some, you know, permanent areas that we're hunting, but I mean, it's a lot of mobile movement and you know, responding to how we're seeing the animals move or where we're seeing them at. So very different than that style, but similar mindset, right? Be mobile to kill them.
Yep. Yeah, a saddle or a portable stand with sticks. And
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, so South, I guess these spots, like it sounds like a lot of them you've hunted for years, so it's like over the years you're figuring out like kind of what's the topography. Is it kind of about once you find an animal or a group of deer that you're going to try to like stick with them?
No, not necessarily. So for me, I'm hunting an opportunity rather than a specific animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for, and this has been the beauty of me of starting to shoot a stick bow, because about the time I started shooting a stick bow where I hunted in Nevada, the deer quality and deer numbers dropped dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with me when I first started hunting there in Nevada was I wanted to kill a mule deer. So this is with my compound. I killed the first year, I killed a 4x2, 2 points on one side, 4 on the other. The next year I killed a 4x3, just an absolute beautiful bomber buck. But I started progressively trying to find and hunt bigger and bigger bucks and getting more and more selective.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started shooting a stick bow, and I reset on what my expectations were.
Mm-hmm.
And I just tried to kill a buck. And then I never really changed from that. I was trying to kill a nice buck. But I wasn't necessarily, I didn't go from shooting a 4x2 to trying to find a 170-inch mule deer. I went from, I killed the first mule deer. I killed my stick bow in Nevada. I shot a 4x4 that was, decent forks, small to decent forks. I wouldn't even have looked twice at them with my compound, but I was overjoyed with my stick bow. And then the next year I killed a small 4x4 with my stick bow, and I was happy. Then, I've shot some better bucks. I've shot some smaller bucks up there. Same kind of thing with Colorado. I've shot some, last year I shot a great deer with my stick bow, but I was looking hard at a forked horn that I would have stalked had he bedded down like an hour before I killed that bomber mule deer. So I was able to, I've kind of changed my mindset where I'm looking for a deer in a good spot for a stalk. And I literally have passed up stalking opportunities at 190-inch bucks and gone after a 160 because that 190 was not in a good spot for a stalk, but that 160 buck was. So, I'm more looking for a deer in the right area, in the right spot for a stalk. And if he's not, then I'll just keep on going, or maybe I'll sit on him and hope that the deer gets up and rebeds in a spot that I can stalk, offers me a higher percentage opportunity for a stalk.
Yeah. And that's not like you're choosing a 160 over a 190 just at face value. It's just, the odds of successfully getting on the 190 is just not there.
And also filming, I assume, too, right? Like that's a big factor into capturing it and being able to make a movie out of it or video out of it.
Right. Most of the time, what I've done for mule deer now is I've set my camera guy up back and have him shooting through a spotting scope or a high focal length lens, so that we're capturing it from a distance and not trying to sneak two guys in, to get, because it makes it so much harder to try to get a shot on video with two guys trying to sneak on a deer. It's hard enough to get, one person into stick bow range, let alone two.
It's also all you see is the guy's back. You're turning around, you're like, he's up here. You're like, great. I can't see anything,
Yeah, and I've been able to utilize a GoPro fairly successfully, because you are getting so close with a stick bow. Even though a 10-yard shot with a stick bow, what I should say with a GoPro looks like it's 40, with a traditional camera. So it looks like it's far away, but I'm usually able to capture two angles, one from the perspective of the cameraman, and then one where you're looking literally down my bow arm over the top of my arrow and looking kind of more like how I'm aiming. And I get to see it from, so it is a cool perspective too.
Yeah. What is the range with your stick bow? What's like, what do you want to be inside of?
So the furthest I've ever shot a mule deer with my stick bow is 40 yards. And the closest has been
feet,
probably sub 5. and if I can get under 20, that's ideal for me. And if I can get where they're bedded under a rock and I'm literally shooting in feet rather than yards, that's what I love. That's a really high percentage shot opportunity for me, and it's super exciting, and it makes for a great video.
You'll appreciate this about, I think, both of our first mule deer. I think we're probably both within 5 yards.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine might have been negative. It was under my feet.
That's right on.
Straight down.
Yep. Jeremy's was bedded, and we were creeping, along the coulees and peeking over
into the shady spots.
You'd peek over, and so Jeremy shot one right there, and mine was.
So was this a deer that you'd seen before, or we're just kind of still hunting?
So Jeremy's wasn't. We were just still hunting. Yeah, that's
awesome.
We had driven some roads in the morning, and we were, it seemed like everything had kind of worked back. We didn't have anything bedded that we thought was a good situation. So
we were kind of just going to more get boots on the ground in an area that we had seen deer previously. It was a line between private and public. And so it was like, man, these damn deer just know where the private line is. They would just sit up
there on the private and watch you walk down the coulee, and they're just like, what's up?
They just knew, right? And so we're like, okay, well, there's some topography here. There should be some shade here. Like maybe that we'll catch some of these deer that didn't jump the fence into private, and that's what it was. In fact, I think we put up one or two before we're like, they were set up in a different area, saw us, went up over the hill, and then we just peeked down over, and that deer was he didn't see them booger out. He just bedded there.
And we were hunting. I mean, we were very intentionally like, hey, they could be under any one of these.
Yeah, because this was the second day that we were hunting, I think. Yeah. So like the first half of the day and that one was more of like, we didn't know what we were doing.
It was such an experience. It was so crazy. We were like, hey, hope we can find a mule deer, type thing. And the first morning we drive up this road here into this public area, and like the second turn we come around, I look up, I'm like, there's one. There was like 150 inch, big 4x4 sitting like 50 yards off the road. Wow. And I was just like, what is this place? There was mule deer everywhere. And
Shangri-La.
It was pretty cool.
It was the learning lesson of like, we kind of understood where these deer wanted to be, but it's like if there's a sage bush and a little bit of shade, those two bucks will be up under it, not necessarily where we think they're gonna be. And like those were the learning experiences that quickly, like I made a stalk on those deer.
On that deer,
and I'm coming up and like, my heart's blowing out of my chest because I'm like, I'm going to pop up and he's going to be like right on top. I'm going to be right here. And like you get to where you're like, they have to be here and they're not. And it's like, what the heck? And I look and like there's a sage bush at the end of the draw with a little shade under it. And both of those bucks are like up underneath it looking right at me. And I'm like, man.
We learned that one quick.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. I love the chess game of spot and stalk. And it's interesting. I just did a podcast last night for my podcast, and I was interviewing some guys that had put together a film on, you guys know who Gene and Barry Wenzel?
Oh yeah.
The Wenzel brothers are. Yeah. So they put together a film on the Wenzel brothers, which will be out on YouTube on I want to say August 23rd.
Cool.
But as I was thinking about, we were talking about whitetail hunting, obviously, and it's like, a whole different like level of chess game where mule deer, when you're spot and stalking, you are, your quote unquote opponent right there, and you're working on your moves. Whitetail, you are essentially shooting at a running target that hasn't materialized yet. So you're, trying to set your stand up in a spot where you anticipate a deer is going to come by. And so it, just a different level of chess there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we haven't done enough mule deer hunting for me to like make this assessment, but I would say mule deer hunting is way more fun in the sense that it's like you're saying, you see it. There's the objective. I can see everything playing out, and it's like, it's action packed. Here we go. Here's the plan. You like it? Here's what we're going to do. Maybe we have to wait a little bit, but with whitetail, it's just a guessing game. I mean,
you don't even know he's there. You're hunting a ghost essentially until you see him. You know, it's like the second year that we went out to the Dakotas. I literally think it stopped raining the day we left the first year, and like didn't rain much until we got back the next year. And so a lot of the farmers and cattle guys had moved their cattle into the Badlands, and a lot of the muleys then moved into the grasslands. And so all of a sudden, instead of us, working these coulees and looking for the shade, now we're in these rolling hill grasslands, and it's like
much less stockable terrain.
We could see 20 plus bucks a day, but getting close to them in bow range was like,
well, they would bed, and so instead of bedding under those rock shelves like they would the first year where they're super stockable, they were bedding in like 6, 8 foot, 10 foot tall sage, groves. So you could see them from an adjacent hillside, but even if you could get to the edge of the stuff they're bedded in, it's like you're never gonna see them. They're just gonna get up and they're just gonna go straight down into the cooler.
So I mean, we worked 7 days. I mean, we put on a lot of miles, and we saw a ton of bucks and some really good ones.
Never drew on one, did we?
No, never drew on one.
I was in bow range of at least one, maybe 2 of them. But
yeah, same.
They were in that sage, and you're just looking at a wall of sage, and you're like, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah. So, but it was, I mean, it was nonstop action. Like we were either making a stock or glassing and finding them from daylight to dark. You just went the whole time. Versus, on a whitetail hunt, you could sit there in a tree stand all day, and you may not see a damn deer.
Right. Yeah, some of the areas I hunt in Colorado, you kind of run into similar situations, but it's them bedding in the willows where, they'll be feeding in the, top end of this basin. You'll be watching them all morning and just salivating, waiting for them to bed down. And then they drop into the bottom of the basin where there's a big willow patch, and they walk in and you can see the tips of their antlers. Then they lay down and they completely disappear.
Yeah, they're gone.
Like, well, yep, game over, at that point, and super frustrating when that happens.
And
because there isn't a whole lot to do, unfortunately. And
no,
you asked about the difference kind of between the Badlands, say the lower desert country, and hunting the mountains there. And that's one of the things is that typically up there in the mountains, you have an easier time getting perspectives that you can glass into these basins. If you run the ridge lines, if you're, new into an area, what I try to do is find like a main ridge line with finger ridges that come down off the sides. And then you can run that ridge line, at first light, glassing into, adjacent basins and cover multiple basins in prime time without having to, cross down through a huge canyon, back up the other side to glass onto the backside of another, ridge there. So that's what I try to do when I'm looking in new country, or, I'm opening weekend and I'm trying to find where the deer are. They hanging in the same spots I've seen them in years past, or is the moisture distribution different this year, and they're maybe in a different spot on the ridge.
Well, you may have answered the question already, even though I didn't ask it. So it's like, if you found, 190-inch mule deer, so has there not ever been one that you're like, that's my guy? Like I've got 12 days here, and I'm gonna stay on him, or not? You're solely looking for opportunities.
I'm looking for opportunities, and I'm going to tell you this here, and hopefully I've never said this on a podcast. I gave up the world record mule deer to my hunting partner because it was not in a good spot for me to stalk. And I shot a probably 160-inch buck myself on that hunt because he was bedded in a good spot.
So when you say you gave it up,
I told him, so our the way
did
myself
he kill it?
And my hunting.
Did your buddy kill the world record mule deer?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So we know it.
What is that? What is the world record mule? Like
338 inches.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
So you have eyes on this deer alive.
Yep.
And you're like, he's not in a stockable
You're like,
or the
nah,
right stockable
not
spot.
Yep.
Wow.
So the way it works with us is if you see it, it's your stock.
Yep, that sounds right.
He hunts with the compound. I hunt with a stick bow. I looked at the situation and it was like, this deer is hanging in an area I cannot kill it in. And I went back to camp and I told him, I was like, dude, I found this buck. I don't know what it'll score. It's at least 250 inches and it has at least 12 points on each side. And I was wrong. It had 29 points on one side. And I can't remember, the other side was north of 20. And I was only off by almost 100 inches in my estimation. But yeah, I gave up that deer because I knew that he had a better chance of killing it than me. So I only had 3 days to hunt. He had come in midweek and he had another week past when I had to leave. So yeah, I gave that buck up to him. And I was so happy. The dude busts his butt and he earned that deer. I had no regrets giving that up, but I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't have mind putting my tag on it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was also happier than heck with the deer that I killed. And, you know, I would love to have that deer on my wall, but, you know, that's his buck. I gave up the opportunity. I had a more limited, you know, effective range weapon. And, you know, that's just, I took that. I was okay with that. When I set down my compound and I picked up a trad bow, I knew my opportunities were going to be more limited. And I knew that I was going to give up opportunities and there was going to be bigger deer that I could not kill because I could not get to, or, you know, they didn't bed in the right position for a stock. And like I had said about, you know, passing up 190 inch bucks to stock 160 inch bucks. If that same situation happens this year, I will do that without any tears or regrets, or I wish I had a compound or anything like that. I'm totally down with, you know, stalking that 160 and passing up a 190. I'm okay with it.
Wow. And he shot that deer with a compound. Did I hear that right?
Dude. Okay. Now I'm going to shed a tear. You know how far he shot it from?
Inside of 20, I'm sure.
27 yards.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
But he shot it 4 days after I went home.
Okay.
So he sat on that deer and watched it every day until that deer bedded in a spot that was stalkable. And it bedded in a morning bed and he had to go right now because that deer was not going to stay there all day. So he made the right move. He snuck down, pulled it off and you know, 27 yards with a stick bow is absolutely doable, but it's definitely no slam dunk.
No.
And who knows if I was next to a deer of that caliber, if I'd be able to hold my mustard. So
wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
For the sake of, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I did the right thing. I mean, he watched that deer from the time I handed it off to him until I killed my deer. That was on a Wednesday when I handed it off to him. I shot my deer on Friday. I had to leave on Saturday. And he killed it on Tuesday the following week. So I wouldn't have been there anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, the guy's a stud. I'm totally stoked for him. And, you know, I'm sure he's grateful for that deer's on his wall and not mine, but, you know, he earned it. There's no question
you'll have to send us a picture of that deer. That's an awesome story.
That's monster.
Maybe it's not worth asking but I'm just curious. I'm like, was there a thought where you're like, well, hey, he's mine until I leave and then he's yours? I got 3 days here to sit on him and see if he beds somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a while ago. I don't remember. I may have tried to hunt him the following day. But you know, where that deer was hanging, I knew it was the first time
or any other deer.
Morning that I saw him.
Go ahead. Sorry.
What's that?
Nope. Go ahead.
The first morning that I saw him, he dropped, he was in the basin that I normally hunt mule deer in. He dropped out of the basin down into the timber, gone, out of play.
Okay.
I think that I went up there the next morning with my buddy and we watched him do the same thing. And at that point I was like, that would have been Thursday. I would have had 2 days to hunt. And I was like, I need to go kill a deer. I'm running out of time. And then I think I passed the baton at that point. If my memory serves me correctly, I could be wrong. My memory could be flawed.
Interesting.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting just to hear different people's perspectives on, like, some people would just say, I'm going to find another 10 days. That's a world record mule deer. I'm going to just versus versus you're like, I need to find a deer to kill.
Yeah. If I was up there by myself, I probably would have done something like that, but I'd flown a cameraman out there who has taken PTO to come film me. And I would have had to have hiked out with him, driven him back, to Denver, to the airport, dropped him off the airport, turned around, begged my wife for another week, and then gone back in. I probably still would be married right now.
Maybe.
My wife's really understanding. And
well, it's not a fair question that I'm asking either. It's so, hindsight's 2020.
I totally get it. I mean, I'm sure those same thoughts went through my head up there.
Yeah, right.
This is the deer literally of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I'm an absolute mule deer nut. It's not like I was on a whitetail. I'm a mule deer nut and went on to somebody's farm and the world record whitetail walked by that given the opportunity, I'd love to shoot a world record whitetail.
Sure.
I would not have the same level of appreciation killing that deer as one of you two did. It would be totally different.
And vice versa on the mule deer from our side.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
And so I knew my buddy would appreciate it the way I would appreciate it. And so, and he's one of my best friends. And so it's like, I'm not a selfish person, and I was okay passing that opportunity along to him. He found the area, we'd been hunting it for, 10 years at that point or close to it. So it was, kind of both of our areas, but he is the one who got us to that spot. So,
well, there you go.
No issues.
That helps to understand the relationship.
And cool that he killed it. Like the regret would be like, neither of you got it, or whatever happened.
Somebody came with a crossbow and whacked it.
Jeez.
Oh, I think Jeremy and I feel the same way about, like, dude, I would give up a world record deer I'd be stoked to see Jeremy shoot a world record deer.
Yeah, I'd rather you shoot it than somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool if you hunt with somebody. I think those relationships are rare, but if you understand that somebody is going to appreciate it as much or more than you do.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and you guys work on something together. You're like, dude, it doesn't matter if I kill it or if you kill it. It's just let's kill it.
I'm fine if it's a total stranger. Like if you're hunting a deer and like whatever, the neighbor or total stranger kills the deer, as long as you recognize that person truly appreciates it, like I'm content. I'm happy for them,
Yeah.
Like it's the ones that like, don't appreciate it or it's not a big deal. Then it's like, you can't be mad at them, but it definitely takes away a little bit because you want them to be like, man, you don't realize
understand what you have there.
here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'll see him this weekend on my way to Nevada. I'll be spending the night at his house as a pit stop on the way to the trailhead. And so
you'll sleep
I'll
under
get to
that.
salivate on that buck.
Yeah, just sleep under it for a while.
It and go rub some good juju off on it or something,
That's wild, man. I mean, but even just to think about, like, because I would say Jared and I are pretty big whitetail nuts. We've never laid eyes on a world record whitetail. So for you to be as like mule deer focused as you are, the opportunity to lay eyes and even have a chance of hunting that deer in its setting what are
the chances?
It was cool as hell. Even though I didn't get to arrow it myself, just to be part of that hunt, part of that experience, part of the history of that deer was awesome.
Sorry, Sal. Did anything come out after the fact? Did people know about that deer? Or did people contact him and be like, oh, we had been hunting that base and we'd seen that deer? Did anybody have sheds off him or anything like that?
No. And these deer migrate a long way out of the high country, so no one would have been able to connect that deer to that basin.
Okay.
And really, I've never seen another mule deer hunter in that basin. I've seen tons of hunting pressure around it, but not in that particular basin where he killed that buck. So I don't think that anyone, I mean, and we hunt that same area. I think that 2 years before I had seen that buck. I'm not 100% positive, but I had seen a really funky, tall, non-typical that just blew my mind. But then the next year we didn't see it, and then I had hunted there 5 days and didn't see that deer, and all of a sudden, boom, there he is. I have no idea where that deer materialized from. But yeah, it was kind of just one of those interesting situations where, no sheds, no history with that deer, except for the one sighting that I think that I had from 2 years before of him in a basin that was in the same unit.
Wow. That's so cool.
It's nuts, man.
It was wild. Yeah, for sure. And definitely feel blessed to have seen a deer of that caliber. Cause I mean, I see just slob mule deer pictures, trail camera pictures and stuff from guys post on Instagram, and, ones that guys knocked down with rifles. And it was like, man, I've never seen a deer like that in my life. I would give a body part to be in bow range to something like that. And then, to have seen something like that on the hoof was pretty amazing.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Beast Broadheads.
Dude, Beast Broadheads. Man, we've been advocating for and shooting expandable, especially big expandable broadheads for years and years now. And it just seems like they just keep making them better and better. And ultimately, with the relationship we've forged with the Bowmars this past year, we're just super excited to be shooting the Beast Broadheads this year.
I mean, this broadhead it's the world's sharpest expandable broadhead out there. It has best penetration, and it's got bone avoiding technology. Ultimately, we want to create the most trauma possible on a deer when we release an arrow. The Beast Broadhead does that for us every time.
So right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount on anything on the Beast website. So definitely go check out beastbroadheads.com.
So before we let you go, I'm just curious, and maybe people in the traditional mindset here of transition, what does your arrow and broadhead setup look like?
Yeah, so I mentioned, I think before we started recording, that I was out at the range. I got up this morning at 4:00 in the morning. I'm leaving. This is Thursday. I'm leaving Sunday after church. And I was panic tuning my broadheads at the range this morning. I literally went with 2 different sets of arrows and 2 different limbs for my bow, trying to figure out which configuration was going to work. I got my broadheads, field points, and bear shaft grouping together at 40 yards. So
wow.
Super relieved that I have a combination that's working for me, but I'll kind of give you the rundown on my setup. I'm shooting a Coyote FXT, recurve limbs, 62 inch. I'm a right-handed shooter. I shoot 3 under, shooting 52 pounds at 28 inches on the draw weight on the bow. I'm shooting I want to say it's a 560 grain arrow. It's a VAP TKO. I'm shooting 4-fletch 3-inch feathers, 200 grain iron will broadhead, single bevel wide cut with the bleeder blades, and a 95 grain outsert there from VAP. So
wow.
Yeah.
When you say VAP, is that a carbon arrow, like a Victory VAP?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. That's what I guess that was my biggest curiosity. If you were shooting like what we would shoot for compounds in a Victory VAP scenario, or if you were shooting something different.
Yeah. I like those 4mm. For some reason, I seem to shoot them better than the 5s. It's a little bit more limiting in the components. But I've had good luck with them. I shot gold tip for years and then just transitioned to Victory this year. So I'm excited to give them a run for the money there and see how they do.
And you said 4-fletched on those?
Yeah. Yep. 3-inch feathers. Yep. 4 of them.
Awesome.
I shot that arrow for a couple of years, South. That's a good arrow. I'm shooting the 250 spines. 250 spines?
400 spine is what I'm shooting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was shooting out of an 80-pound compound, so there's
your difference.
Yeah,
For sure.
I am still shooting. Came back to Victory this year. The HLRs. It's a 5mm arrow, and it was more.
Okay.
It was kind of about the components was kind of a factor for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish that they, there was a way to cram a regular, AMO thread into that internal diameter on the, just, doesn't happen because the outserts do, it is a weak point. And for me, I love stump shooting. I'm stump shooting all day as I'm walking around. So, that's why I went to the 95 grain outsert on that arrow, because they're a steel insert that goes into the shaft there. And I had bent a bunch of the aluminum ones. So I wanted a little bit more durability.
Interesting. So when you're just walking around doing socks, you're just shooting stumps every once in a while, just to kind of.
Yep. For one, the high desert particularly messes with my range estimation. So I like to kind of try to get comfortable with, if I don't have, and I gap shoot. So I use a rangefinder, even though I do shoot a stick bow. And that, a lot of times I don't have the opportunity to range it, or I'm so close that it doesn't, that I don't need it. But if I'm, standing at 30 yards or something, and I have a deer that's unaware that I'm there, I'll range it. And so I can, I know my gaps, so I know where to aim. If I'm shooting at a little bit longer of a shot, my point on is about 39, 40 yards right now with the setup that I'm shooting. So, and that goes back to the stump shooting thing. My action, like shooting a compound, you can pretty much, once you get it sighted in, you're good. And then, I went to the range before I left on this hunt. I'm shooting a mechanical release. I can shoot 4-inch groups at 60 yards or whatever it is. When I'm shooting a stick bow, I may be on a hot streak one day and I may be on a cold streak the next.
Right.
So I want to know how I'm shooting on a day-to-day basis. So that's another reason why I'm stump shooting all day. There's days that, like I had one year, I hunted Nevada where my left rights were great, but I was constantly low 6 inches, high 6 inches. I could not get my range down, and I snuck up on a buck. I was 15 yards from him, and I had him bedded facing directly away from me. It was like an ideal setup if your range up and down was not doing well, because I had the length of his body, obviously not the whole length, so I didn't want to gut shoot him, but I had, a longer vertical area to shoot at. So I felt comfortable at that 15 yards, but I wouldn't have wanted to shoot that deer at 35. Right. And then there's days that I'm on fire and, I'm super confident even at 40 yards. And so I will adjust my effective range on a daily basis based on how I'm stump shooting throughout the day.
Interesting.
And when you said point on, you're talking about looking at your broadhead point or fill point on the target at 39 yards. That's
correct
with your setup.
Yep. So if I'm shooting, let's say 25 yards, that point of my arrow may be down near the deer's knees or below the knees. And so you just kind of have to get an idea of what that gap distance looks like.
Yeah.
That's what's, an instinctive shooter is just focusing on where he's going to hit and not cognizant of where the point of the arrow is. Whereas a gap shooter is using that kind of as a deliberate aiming method. And one additional thing I've played around with too is I've turned my broadheads vertical so that the blade, I can use the top of the blade as another aiming point. And that gives me a 5-yard gap there. So my point on is 40 yards. The top of my broadhead is 35. So that gives me one additional aiming point there, which is kind of handy if you're shooting something out there a little further.
Very cool.
In my mind, I'm almost like, imagine if you could fasten a little, like almost a pin or something.
Have you ever heard of sight before?
If I could have an additional aiming point.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Some guys, they're like, oh, that's not traditional archery. You're, using they're purists but there's just different levels to it, and to each their own. There's guys that, are out there with a self bow with rawhide backing and a sinew string and a napped arrowhead, and more power to them, man. That is a heck of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
And then at the other end of the spectrum, there's guys that are shooting an aluminum riser with carbon limbs and have stabilizers and all that, and are gap shooting or shooting a crawl where they're counting down the strands of their bowstring and anchoring down low so that they can have a floating point on, or there's all different ways to approach it. And in my perspective, do what you like to do. Do what you find is rewarding to you. Do what gets you the most accurate, and screw everyone else. Let them do what they want to do. And that's my perspective. I mean, I don't want to have someone else impress their values on me when it comes to my personal equipment or shooting style. And I don't do that to other people.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a big one. I mean, at least from just really the last 2 or 3 years of me getting more and more into it. I'm sure like my form's not the best, and maybe my technique isn't the best either, but whatever I find to be consistent and can, know my boundaries of yardage and works for me, like that's just how I'm going to do it. Like to change that would probably be even harder, than to just try to continue to refine your own craft and style of what you find that works.
Yeah. I mean, I've been shooting a bow for decades now, and many decades now, and I'm still picking stuff up, man. There's guys that are getting like super into the target end of it, and some of that translates over into the hunting, end of the sport there. And there's a lot to learn. There's so much information out there. I have just started kind of diving into it. I'm not as into the target archery. I used to go to tournaments and stuff when I shot a compound, and it's super fun. I love doing that, but it's just not easy for me to get there from where I live, and also just from the amount of time that I have, free time that I have. So I don't participate in it as much. I would absolutely be a better archer if I did, but it's just one of those things that comes down to time. But I've been benefiting from what other people have been discovering and developing from shooting techniques and form and listening to podcasts and what have you. So there's always something that can be picked up.
Very cool. Well, I guess South, best place for people to find you on the YouTube channel primarily. Is that what you would say from a content standpoint?
Yeah. So I've, from a volume standpoint, I do a podcast as well. So the Western Bowhunter Podcast. And I am not as consistent as you guys, certainly, but I try to get stuff out as frequently as I can. And I've got, I don't know, north of 150 episodes that are cached there. So if people are interested, they can, go back into a back catalog there. Also, I have got coming up on this hunt here in Nevada, we are packing in with the goats. We're packing in a Starlink mini satellite. So we will be able to semi-live podcast from the field. So this is going to publish your guys' podcast here. You said it's going to publish Tuesday.
Yep.
By the time that this publishes for you guys, I hopefully will have one published myself. If not, then the following day.
Cool.
So the Western Bowhunter Podcast to follow up on a kind of semi-live hunt from the field on that hunt there in Nevada. And then, the YouTube channel, Stalker Stickbows, has got a back catalog of at least a dozen mule deer and elk videos from, backcountry, all public land stuff in Colorado and Nevada.
Is that stuff, are you producing that stuff? Like if you film it this year, it releases next year, or how do you typically do that for your films?
Typically that's what we try to do. I'm behind on releasing footage. I've got a mule deer hunt that's on the Full Draw Film Tour right now that will be out on YouTube probably mid-September. I think that's when their last tour date winds up. So expect a new release mid-September if you haven't already caught it on the Full Draw Film Tour. And then the guy that is editing that Wenzel Brothers film that I was telling you about earlier, he's got the footage from my elk hunt from last year, and he's got so he's got that on the list. That won't get done till post elk season this year. He's got a moose video for another client that he's editing, and then mine's in the queue after that one. So expect that sometime this winter, more than likely.
Awesome, man.
South, if somebody were inclined to get a bow from you, what would be the process for that?
So my website, Stalker Stickbows, has a contact, or just reach out to me through Instagram, same Stalker Stickbows. And I'm pretty available. Or they can call my shop if they want to actually.
Yeah, we know the phone works.
Bow shop.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm not going to be around a whole lot, obviously during the rest of August and September. But people can reach out to me via email or DM me on social media, Facebook or Instagram, and pretty easy to find.
Awesome, man.
Very cool.
Well, South, we wish you the best of luck in Nevada, man. We look forward to it. We'll definitely make sure we catch the semi live from the field. That'll be, I assume anyone that's like on the edge of their seats ready for hunting season, that'll be a cool way to try to be part of it for a moment to know what's going on out there in the wilderness. But that should be an exciting time.
I love South being a part of. I know the feeling of like right before a hunt, the anticipation like this. It's like, you check this off the list now. You're like, there's one less thing to do before I get to leave for this hunt now. So glad we got it out of the way here.
Yeah, all my gear is already packed. I got, I'm like a kid, man. I'm telling you this. I'm so excited for this hunt. I'm so anticipating this hunt. I had my stuff packed a week ago, which I never do. I'm usually the guy at midnight, the night before I leave, throwing stuff in the back of my truck and hitting the trail 20 pounds overweight, on my backpack, because I didn't sort through all my gear. But I'm ahead of the curve this year. I'm super amped. So I hope it translates into a fantastic hunt, and I'm excited to be sharing those updates from the field.
Dude, there's nothing else that gets grown men giddy like to that level, like in their fit, the week before type of. Not that I've encountered anyways. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah,
that'll be awesome. Well, we appreciate it, Sal. Thanks for coming on this afternoon and spending some time with us, and good luck on the hunt, man. We'll be looking forward to hearing about it.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Mountain Tough.
Man, as everybody knows, physical fitness is super important to both you and I, Jared. And so whether it's training for the Badlands so that we can pack out a muley or our weekly whitetail hunts, the thing that we don't want is to be a big piece of shit in the woods this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, dude, even just in our daily lives, whether we're planting food plots, running our businesses, spending time with our family, we just want to feel good. And that all starts with physical fitness.
Yep. So this year we're partnering with the Mountain Tough app, cool new app that you can go in. You can do rucking, you can do weighted vests, you can do minimal gear, but basically the app has both coached and self-guided courses, anything and everything you need to be mentally and physically tough for this hunting season.
And so right now you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on the Mountain Tough website. That's mtntough.com. It does have to be the website. It can't be either of the app stores to get that discount applied. You get a free 2-week trial anyway, so anybody can go on and use that. But while you're signing up, use that code HUNTR. You'll get an additional free month after that trial period to use the app. That's a total of 6 weeks. That's a huge savings.
So this season, get Mountain Tough. Very cool. Like, I watched a few of his videos here since we got this set up, and I've watched some of them in the past. But yeah, cool to like put his personality with those films and even the brand and the bows and stuff. And man, and obviously like South's not old, right? But like I just love that, like, what do you say, he's 56 or 57?
My dad's age, 56.
And he's just doing it. He's still doing it, and he's still going at it, and like that that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, dude, he just loves it. You know what I mean? He's like a kid, before Christmas, and he's like obviously works hard year round, and he's made some sacrifices and risks and decisions to be able to put himself in a place to be able to do what he loves, which is to hunt the entire month of September. And frickin' there he is 2 days before in his glory, getting ready to live it up.
It's so weird though. Like and I guess it's just because of where we come from. Like I don't think I could do 6 weeks of season and then like not hunt.
No, it's a different mindset for sure.
Because like even the guy, like we were talking about the mountain tough guys, you know, and it's like those guys are training 11 months of the year for 1 month. Like that,
for 1 week in some cases.
Yeah, it's wild to like, you know, comprehend that, because like it, you know, theirs is very much a sprint and ours is a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, like when we get like, don't get me wrong, like I'm geared up, like I'm ready for Kentucky to open first weekend in September, but I'm gonna hunt it till mid-January if I have a tag still.
Yeah, well, it's just hard to wrap your mind around, like, and I don't want to like demean it in any ways, but it's just genuine curiosity about how do you build a lifestyle around a Western hunt, you know, passion for hunting. It's, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you do? It's physical fitness for sure is a part of it. It's like, is there a scouting element of it? I'm sure there is. You know what I mean? You could go out and could find sheds, you could go out and find deer.
But I mean, if you think about it, like in this is the other thing, especially where these guys are at in the high country and stuff. It's like, you know, you get into mid-October and like they're getting heavy snows up in the high country and stuff. So like pretty quickly, like you don't want to be up in there, you know? And so, and sure, there are gun seasons and stuff later and things like that. But I mean, if you get one tag, you get one tag. And if you're a bow hunter, you get, you know, you're hunting with your bow. But because I don't think they can use archery equipment during the gun seasons.
I don't know.
At least in some of those states. So yeah, I mean
I think you're right.
It is a very just different, which is, I mean, again, we would kind of run ourselves ragged, but it's like, man, every month I've got somewhere to be during hunting season. Like there's some tag in my pocket that I can go and like do what I love to do.
Well, yeah, the entire year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just
with the property management and everything else.
It's not during
and scouting and shed hunting and everything else.
And every year seems to be progressively like more and more. It's like, I mean, dude, it's every week. I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
I got to be at this far mowing this. I got to be.
Well, like even in that, I mean, like obviously South has put in his time to find these spots, but it's like, it really seemed like once you find a spot, unless it gets overrun because somebody shined a spotlight on it, like, it's the spot that produces year after year after year.
It's an area, you know what I mean? It's
a general, I shouldn't say spot. It like a general.
It's like this pocket of this mountain.
This basin area, and this.
I mean, they're
glassing
stuff. Yeah, it's got to be miles. Of stuff.
But like, you know, and so. Yeah, it's just it obviously is intense. I mean, because, you know, even like he said, he's going to hunt 36 days in the next 45. Is basically what it is. In the next 6 weeks, he's gonna hunt 36 days. Like you're gonna be whooped, especially with the hiking and the high country stuff that you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, then to be like, yeah, October 1st, it's done. It's over.
Well, and it could be. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess we don't need to make it what word. You know, what I mean, it's like
no. Honestly,
that's just what it is.
It'd be more effective in my lifestyle of like, 100%. I want to work hard, and then I just want to blow off 6 weeks and like I'm not around. But then I come back and then I'm around again.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your mind
Ours is
around.
like a prolonged, like from September.
It never ends.
Yeah, it never ends. We're always just gone and moving and doing
it never ends. And I'm sure those guys, like we do, he lays awake at night in April and is thinking about stalking those mule deer and stuff. And it's
for sure. Yeah, what's that coulee look like? Or, man, I really need to glass that basin this year or whatever.
100%. Just different.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's really cool. The fact that he is doing that with a stick bow is just like, I think it's really hard for people to comprehend. Like, you know, like he said, we have the ability in whitetail country to set everything up. I mean, it's what we're doing anyways, to set it up to where I'm maximizing my 20 and in shots where I know I'm going to use a stick bow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a complete wild card out there. Wherever that buck lays down, and that's the stock he's got to take
them where they lie.
And I mean, if anything, the fact that he eyed a world record and handed it off tells you he knows what his boundaries are with that bow.
For sure.
And I mean, that in itself is a huge advantage because he's not going to waste time and approach something that he knows he can't kill, which is pretty freaking cool.
What do you say? 326
330 or something.
Oh my goodness.
It's a mega.
We gotta get a picture of that. I'll text him.
Mega. So yeah, I mean he's right. And yeah, I mean not many people would have that self-restraint not to try to make a strong move at it, especially if you're like, if we saw the typical world record whitetail in Kansas and we're like,
I'd probably quit my job over it. I'd be like, good thing I don't have one, right? But I would just be like, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah, until the season's over, I will
just in my life. This is what I'm doing now.
I mean, we've heard from guys like Spook who passed on the opportunity, and he's like, looking back on that, I would have paid $100,000 to do that, and not worked for 2 months. Like it's just, that is a 1 in a billion type animal.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I was just trying to get to the root of his personality and like what he's getting out of bow hunting. And it's so that tells me it's not so much about a specific animal like it is for some people. It's just way more about the experience. And he just is obsessed, I think, with the art of spotting and stalking.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's his enjoyment is executing the perfect spot and stalk. And then on top of it, hopefully getting it on video to share with all of us.
And if it's a big buck, great, you know, good. But
yeah, well, like you said, he was watching a forked horn, and then he was like, he happened to kill a really big one, and it's like, you know, that big one wasn't on purpose any more than the stock would have been on a forked horn buck. So yeah, it's a cool thing, and I do think that it's
probably more gratifying and less stressful because there's less things.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? There's less things out of his control where it's like all he has to do is perform, and you know, he has to find an animal in the right situation and stuff, but he can pull it off, and it's like the ultimate success achieved. You can't necessarily dictate the size of that's out of your control.
Oh yeah, and I mean, just having the gratification of like, I just need to go out there, have a great experience, and kill a buck with my stick and string. That's a very simplistic way of finding enjoyment.
Yeah, no doubt.
Which is admirable.
Well, and it is probably because of that. He kind of said this, that the size of the animal is almost, it does take a back seat because it's the things he's trying to achieve are so difficult that it's like it's not reasonable to try to also you know, so it's
pretty cool.
I get it.
No,
it's hard to verbalize, but
I will for sure, whether he does it the same night that this drops and or the next day, I'm going to listen to that.
Tune into the Starlink pod.
The Starlink pod. That'll be cool just to be like, kind of imagine yourself at camp with South and hearing about the events of the day, essentially. Man.
South's live from deer camp.
Yeah, his is a little different than ours.
Live from the mountain.
Live from the mountain. So anyways, we appreciate everyone listening to this episode of HUNTR Podcast with South Cox, episode 263, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Later.
Take me